You know how we all have our little routines, right? The habits we don't even think about? Well, have you ever stopped to wonder what they might actually say about our inner world? Today, we're going to take a look under the hood, psychologically speaking, at some super common behaviors to see what thinking patterns are hiding just beneath the surface. I mean, we've all seen this, haven't we? Maybe even in the mirror sometimes. It's one of those big human puzzles. Why does some of us get stuck in a loop, making the same mistakes over and over, or just really struggling to see where someone else is coming from? That's the big question we're going to unpack today. So to get into this, we're going to use a framework of what some call cognitive indicators. But look, I want to be super clear about something right from the get-go. The goal here is all about understanding. It's not about slapping labels on people or passing judgment. We're just looking at patterns so we can learn, not so we can criticize. Okay, so at the absolute heart of all of this is an idea called cognitive function. And don't let the term scare you. The easiest way to think about it is just as the mental toolkit we use every single day. It's the engine that powers how we see the world, how we think, reason, and remember stuff. All right, with that in mind, let's dive into the really interesting part. We're going to walk through 5 very common habits that, according to psychological research, can give us a little window into these deeper thought processes.
So the first pattern we're going to look at, it might seem really simple on the surface, but believe me, its implications go pretty deep.
And that is a lack of curiosity. Now, this isn't about whether or not you read a ton of books. It's more of a general disinterest in the world beyond your own immediate experience.
So what's the psychology here? Well, when someone just kind of accepts information as it is, without that little itch to ask, but why, or explore a different idea, it might signal a less engaged way of thinking. Seriously. Studies show curiosity is like the spark plug for learning. It's what gets our brains fired up to make new connections and actually grow.
Okay, so from not really seeking out new information, let's move on to a habit that's more about how we process the information we already have.
This one is a biggie. It's this inability to see other perspectives. Psychologists sometimes call this cognitive rigidity, which basically means you have a hard time seeing the world through someone else's eyes.
And listen, this goes way beyond just being stubborn. It's really about the mental workout of holding 2 or more different, maybe even conflicting ideas in your head at the same time. You know, that ability to move beyond just black and white thinking is a huge part of high-level problem solving. When that's a real struggle, it can make getting through our complicated, messy, gray world pretty tough.
And you know, this kind of inflexible thinking often leads us right into our third pattern,
which is a habit of blaming other people when things go wrong.
Okay, so the connection here is absolutely crucial. It's the link between blame and learning. Think about it. When our first instinct is to point the finger at someone or something else, we completely miss the chance to do any self-reflection. And what that means psychologically is we're avoiding the hard mental work of figuring out, okay, what was my part in that and what can I do differently next time? It's a mental shortcut that unfortunately leads to a dead end.
Now, if you're not reflecting on your own actions, it's probably going to be pretty hard to take feedback from other people. And that brings us right to our 4th habit,
which is all about how we handle it when our ideas get challenged. Or, to put it simply, reacting poorly when someone disagrees with us.
Have you ever been in a conversation where a simple difference of opinion suddenly feels like a personal attack? Well, when that happens, that strong emotional reaction can literally short-circuit the logical, reasoning parts of our brain. Instead of thinking about the new information, our brain just flips into defense mode. And that can shut down the very processes we need to learn and grow from a healthy debate.
And all of these habits we've talked about, they kind of build on each other and lead to our 5th and final one, which, you'll see, brings us full circle to the question we asked at the very beginning.
Yep, it's repeating the same mistakes. This is the big one that so many of us wonder about.
A lot of times, this comes down to a difficulty with something psychologists call abstract reasoning. All that means is the ability to take one specific experience, like, say, a project at work that didn't go well, and pull out a general lesson from it that you can use in the future. If you can't do that, you're pretty much stuck treating every new situation like it's brand new, which leads to that incredibly frustrating cycle of making the same errors again and again.
Okay, so we've looked at 5 different habits. But here's the thing. They're not just random. There's a really clear common thread that ties them all together. So let's put it all into focus.
And this is how it all fits. You can see these aren't just little personality quirks. Each of these habits actively blocks a vital mental process. A lack of curiosity stops you from gathering new information. A rigid perspective kills your cognitive flexibility. Blaming others? That stops self-correction in its tracks. Reacting poorly to disagreement prevents you from learning from others. And repeating mistakes points to a problem with abstract reasoning. Each one is basically like a locked door keeping us from moving forward and growing.
And honestly, this is the most important takeaway from this whole thing. This isn't a toolkit for going out and judging your friends or your family. It's a mirror. It's for self-awareness, because it's only when we can start to recognize these patterns in our own lives that we can actually begin to do something about them.
So, with all that said, I want to leave you with one last thing to think about. A little question for you to take away with you.
Just take a second to look at your own life, your own patterns. Which of your habits are the ones that open your mind up, that bring in new ideas and help you grow? And be honest with yourself. Is there one that might be quietly closing the door to new perspectives without you even realizing it? It's a really powerful question to ask, and just thinking about the answer, well, that's the first step to any real change.